All right, this starts rather quickly. Okay, so we are back into reflexes. And if you decided to come back to this episode, I really want to thank you for coming back. So this one, we were talking in the last episode, number 2. It was about the reflex that's called traction. And for this one, it starts at 28 weeks. For a 28-week-old baby, they are able to do traction, and it ends at 2 to 5 months. So as I was explaining before, the baby likes to be kind of like in an egg form. That's why they like to be swaddled, right? So their arms, when they're flexed together, means that they're like cooped together. Everything, the legs, the arms, everything's just cooped together, right? Okay. So what happens is that if you grab a baby by the forearms, okay, and you pull them to sit, right? What happens is the baby's naturally gonna flex the upper extremity, okay, which is the arms, the top side of the body. So you're gonna pull them out of flex, meaning you're gonna kind of like stretch their arms out. And they're going to want to go back into that coop method, when they're like a coop. So they're going to do is, it's going to look like if they're doing a push-up, towards you. But it's not that they're doing a push-up. It's just a natural reflex, okay, to want to go back into flexion mode, okay? And this lets you know if the baby does that it enhances the momentary reflexive grasp. Everything is working fine and they're able to go back into the reflexive grasp. Then we go into moto. Now, moto also starts at 28 weeks. And this one ends at 4 to 6 months. Again, when I talk about reflexes is something that happens naturally without the person or without even you, because we do have certain reflexes that don't end, that they just stay with us. They start at a certain period, after we're born, and they just don't end. They stick with us. Those are like reflexes that are there to save us and protect us, okay? So these reflexes are there to save the baby and protect the baby and kind of survive, okay? These are just natural movements that a baby should be able to do. And when they don't have these reflexes naturally, there comes OT, people like, what I'm trying to study, and doctors and a lot of specialists and different things to help the baby with those reflexes, because they are there for us to survive. Okay, so with that said, we're going to go into moto, and this one starts at 28 weeks, and it naturally ends at 4 to 6 months. What happens is, and I'm going to read this one because I have to remember this one. It says, they extend the arms out and they open their hands. And then they immediately flex the arms towards the body and they adduct. Okay, so what this one is saying, it's a natural movement as well, just like a reflex. Now, what happens here is, you have the baby kind of upwards, okay, in front of you. And they don't have that strength in their head yet. That's why with the little child, the little baby, you have to hold their heads too, because they don't have that neck stability. So what happens here, in order to test this reflex, is you just kind of let the head fall back a little bit and rapidly, just one time, not a continuous, just a one-time thing. And it's to check when that happens. It's like they get the feeling like when you're falling. So their hands are supposed to extend out. Like when you're falling, you put all your hands and your feet out, like kind of like to protect yourself from wherever you're falling. And they immediately bring their hands and feet back in towards the body, and they become they get cooped. So it's like that feeling of falling, okay? So when this happens, it takes the ability to depart from a dominant flexor posture. And it's a protective response. It's the first protective response that we demonstrate. So again, this is just kind of letting us know, as the therapist, that this baby is not stuck in flexion mode. It means that when we try the motor reflex, they're able to move away from the dominant flexor posture. And of course, they come back into flexion, but they're able to depart from it as well. And again, it's the first protective response that we demonstrated. And I'll talk about protective response a little bit further. We might have to go into another episode, but it's okay. Okay, so the next one is called plantar grasp. Plantar is your feet, okay? And it starts at 28 weeks, and this one ends at 9 months. So what you do is you apply pressure with your thumb to the baby's foot. And what happens there is that the toes will flex. They were scrunched together, okay? It's a very tiny little foot. Tomato. But what happens is, you apply a little bit of pressure with your thumb to the baby's foot, and the toes will flex. And what happens is this increases tactile sensation to the bottom of the foot. So it shows you that this baby has tactile sensation to the bottom of their foot, and it's happening naturally. So all of these tests that we do, it's like, okay, to know that everything is happening at its appropriate time. And it's naturally happening. And if it doesn't naturally happen, then that's where we come in. Okay? No problem. All right. So we're going to go into gallant. Gallant, it starts at 32 weeks. Okay? So we're moving away from 28 weeks. This one is a little bit further ahead. Because, and again, we have to keep in mind, a lot of these ages, like 28 weeks, 20 weeks, now 32, yes, it does take 40 weeks for a baby to be like fully, how do I say the word? It's like the maximum amount for them to be in the belly. I think it's 43 anyways, but, for them to be fully developed. But there's preemies, okay? And when we come to preemies, a lot of them already have these reflexes already ready to go, okay? So this one is at 32 weeks, okay? It's called gallant, and it ends at 2 months. And what you do is you hold the baby prone in the air. So prone in the air means on their belly side, okay? And you're holding them in the air, okay? They're not like laying on a bed or a crib or a floor. You're holding them in the air on the belly side, and you gently stroke, and it's so cute. You gently stroke his back from the shoulder side to the buttocks, okay? So you're holding them in the air on the belly side, and let's say you have them in diapers. And with your finger, you're just going to stroke like if you're going to tickle on the side from the shoulder, on the very side of all the way, like through the back to the buttocks. And what happens is they will laterally flex towards the stimulated side. So you're going to see like the wrinkling of the skin. They're going to move towards that side, okay? Again, I'm going to say it's the baby will laterally flex towards the stimulated side. And if you do it to the other side, again, still on the belly, but you're just doing with your index finger, you're doing the stroke on the other side of the baby, on the other shoulder, from the shoulder down to the buttocks. And they should do that motion. And what this is doing is, that they are able to facilitate trunk movement, which is needed for trunk stabilization in the future. So this reflex is working properly, perfect. They're able to do that. It creates a little bit of a trunk movement, and it is needed in order to create trunk stabilization in the future. So perfect. That one is called, again, Gallant. Starts at 32 weeks up to 2 months. Okay, next page. We are going to go into what is called ATNR. ATNR is called the asymmetric tonic neck reflex. Very long, and that's why it's called ATNR. Okay, so this reflex begins at 37 weeks, and it ends naturally at 4 to 6 months old. The baby fully rotate baby's head. Okay, so you have them on their backside. Okay, and they could be laying in their crib, in the bed. And what you do is you fully rotate the baby's head to the side, and you hold it there for 5 seconds. What happens is that the baby will extend the extremities where the face side and the flex on the back, the baby's skull side. Okay, so it's kind of let's say you rotate the baby's head towards their right side. Okay, so if you do it to the right side, the hand on that side where they're looking, they should be able to look at their hand, right? And the other hand will kind of come in close to and kind of tickle the back of his head. So the side where his eyes are looking, that arm will extend. And it's not like a full-on extension, but you will see some kind of extension on that side. And on the opposite side, the hand will flex towards the body. And, they could be either touching their head or touching their shoulder or somewhere in where they're flexing, okay? Putting their hands close to their body. The hands on the side where their eyes are looking, the baby's eyes are, that side of the body or the head is extended, okay? And this promotes visual attention to hand, okay? And then we're going to go into palmar grasp. Palmar grasp, also just like ATNR, starts at 37 weeks, and just like ATNR, ends at 4 to 6 months. And for palmar grasp, remember we did the plantar grasp. This is palmar grasp, so it's a little bit later. And they're going to place the finger on the baby's palm, okay? You place your index finger on the baby's palm. And what the baby does naturally is that they're going to flex and grasp, okay? So when you put your finger on a baby's hand, at this age, 37 weeks, up to 4 to 6 months, naturally, their hand is going to close into a fist and kind of grab your finger, right? And you would think, oh my God, they're grabbing my finger. But this is actually happening naturally. It's outside of the baby's control. It's a typical reflex motion, okay? So now you're understanding something when you put your finger on these little babies' hands, and they close their hands and they kind of grab your finger. That's a natural movement, okay? It's a reflex. And this just increases the tactile input in the palm. Oh, I'm running out of time. Come back for the next episode and you will learn with me. I hope you are enjoying this. We have 30 seconds left. Just to finish with the palmar grasp, it's really good. It'll know that they have tactile input in the palm of the baby's hands. And it'll let us know that they are receiving that tactile sensation and the touch sensation, okay? So thank you so much for listening and come back to the next episode. Bye-bye.